Hello, I'm Dustin Atwood. I'm a master certified automotive technician in Springfield, Missouri. We have three shops. We have two in Springfield, one in Republic, and I do some work down in Northwest Arkansas. We have a couple Seaburg service centers down there. And so, what my goal each week when we do a podcast is to try and share some information with everybody out there. And today, I kind of have a thought or a concept, so I hope you'll hang out with me, as well as let me know your thoughts on whether you can actually still work on, service, and maintain your own vehicle. Now, obviously, I'm in the automotive space. I've been a master certified technician for probably at least 15 years. I've been certified longer than that, but it takes a little while to work up to get your master. I've been with A1 Custom Car Care for a little over 20 years at this point, so I have a lot of skin in this game as far as, knowing what it's like to do it at a professional level. However, I know there's a car culture out there, and a lot of people want to do their own work or maybe do their own work. And if you do and you do it at a high level, I absolutely tip my figurative hat to you, because automotive repair is not an easy game, and it's getting harder and harder every model year that we go on. So I kind of think back, and I'm going to just kind of walk down memory lane with you guys today. So if you don't mind, bird walking with me, I'd appreciate you hanging out and giving me your 2 cents as well. But when I got in the industry, it would have been very early 2000s, late 99. I say that because I took a 2-year trade school to get some formal education in automotive repair. And I did graduate with a 2-year, I guess it'd be an associate's degree if I had to put a title on it. But really, most of my education has come through, just experience. I have attended a unbelievable amount of in-person training across the entire country. And then obviously here on the internet, there's a lot of good information out there. You got to weed through the guys or the gals that don't exactly know what they're talking about, but there's a lot of them out there that do. And so I know I've talked to a lot of you here in the shops. I've messaged back and forth with you here through whether it's Facebook or YouTube or whatever social you found us on. And a lot of you have a lot of questions out there. And some of you are trying to do your own repairs, but the majority of you are just looking for somebody that can actually fix your doggone car and do it at a level that, it stays fixed for as long as the original part lasted, if not longer. So there's no shop out there that I know of that is a manufacturer. There are some automotive shops that remanufacture engines and whatnot, but they're not casting cylinder heads, they're not assembling alternators, they're not building master cylinders, all that stuff. So you have a manufacturing side, and then you have an installation side, which is, where I live. And so, and really you, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, are in the same boat. So my question or my thought process is it getting to the point, and I believe that it is, to where people can no longer work on their own car? I mean, I live, eat, and breathe the automotive industry, and I'm consuming information, seeking out service data, etc., at maximum speed every day. And thankfully, I'm surrounded by service advisors, managers, technicians. We're bringing on young, what I would consider entry level or lube technicians, and bringing them up through the business. Because if you don't do that, the hobbyist is really getting kind of forced out, if you will. There's still a very big automotive culture here in the United States, and I don't believe that's going anywhere, but I'm seeing it change significantly, to be honest. When I got in the business, a couple of decades ago, I would have people come in and say, hey, I want Valvoline oil in my car. I want Castrol oil in my car. I want Pennzoil, purple, Royal Purple. Fill in the blank. And I bet I get that a couple of times a year. And I used to get it, if not daily, significantly weekly. And that just has shifted and changed. And I've noticed it especially the last 10 years. And so, as you kind of pay attention to, as the baby boomers were the lion's share of people spending money, industry, employees, that has shifted now, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, as of July of 2025, it's really the millennials that have stepped into that role. And Gen X is in there, obviously, Gen Z. I mean, you could talk about all of them, but it seems like the generation that knew what to ask for or had an opinion on it is really kind of fading out into retirement. And either they aren't concerned about it as much, or the folks that I'm seeing, they just trust the automotive shop to take care of the maintenance and the repairs and know that, okay, this is what's best for me and my car. And that's really what this podcast or the information or any of the radio shows or news spots that I've done over the years, it's been that educational piece that, hey, we want to take care of your car at the highest level with the best parts, the best skilled hands, the best trained technician and equipment to make sure that you get as many trouble-free miles out of your vehicle as possible. The reason most people trade their vehicle in isn't necessarily because of a dollar amount or a large repair. That does have a factor on it, obviously. But in my experience, it's because they lose faith in that vehicle and they're like, okay, it's giving me problem. I dealt with problem. But that third one, it's like, all right, I'm out. I'm done. I'm dipping out. And so the days of the folks that, would invest in that vehicle and take care of it and know what it needs has really shifted to trying to find somebody that can do it on your behalf. And, if you do your own oil changes, your own tire rotations, coolant exchange, put an alternator on it when it goes bad, etc., I bet you're the minority at this point in time. Now, we are a Castrol oil distributor. All of our locations are. I've been a Castrol guy since I was a child. My dad, that was his brand, if you will, and maybe I was brainwashed early on. Now, that doesn't mean there's not other oils out there that I'm a big fan of. Valvoline, I've been to their world headquarters. I really like what they're about. I really contemplated getting into a Valvoline distributorship. However, the local oil companies around, they just didn't offer the service I was looking for, so we went with Castrol. And I'm very happy with Castrol out there. But a lot of you probably don't even know what oil is in your car at this point. That's not a bad thing per se, as long as you have a good facility relationship with whoever's taking care of your vehicle. And as I kind of price even doing an oil change, I have several kids that drive. My wife and I have several vehicles. So as I kind of, weigh it out, it's like, man, when I buy oil and filter for my vehicles, it's really not a whole lot different than what, we charge here at the shop. Now, I love taking care of my vehicles, my family, etc. I love, still after 20 plus years, being a mechanic, if you will. And so I'm not bringing them to the shop and having somebody else change my oil. I actually put a lot of that out here on the channel, hopefully for educational purposes, that kind of lets you see that an oil change isn't necessarily an entry-level job. There's something to be said with having an experienced real mechanic or technician do your oil change versus going one of these instant quick lube type deals, 10 minutes or less, whatever it is, where they just dump the oil, filter, fill you up, and shoot you back out the door. Maybe they try and upsell you some maintenance items while you're there, air filters, etc., fuel additives, and I'm not downplaying that. But I know the difference here at A1 Custom of who is doing the oil changes and what their trained, experienced eyes are also trying to head off problems before they happen. Now, if you're doing it yourself, I would urge you to do the same thing. Don't just get in there with the blinders on and like, okay, the oil plug is here, the filter's there, we're not going to look at anything else. Not knowing or ignorance is absolutely going to cost you a whole lot of money. I can't tell you how many vehicles I've seen that I personally, and I still do oil changes now. We had a really nice, I think it was a 2020 Jeep Wrangler yesterday, had the 2.0 4-cylinder turbo. Not crazy about that platform, but it had, I think, 27,000 miles. I brought it in, did a tire rotation, did the oil service on it, gave it a good look over, really didn't see anything going on with it. But in my opinion, that's value to the customer. As I did my digital inspection, it's like, okay, it is low miles, obviously. Brakes are good, tires are good. We're doing the rotate to make sure we're gonna get as many miles out of these tires as possible. I would urge you to do the same thing, or if you're not interested in doing your own oil changes, having a relationship with a shop that has an actual mechanic, technician, doing your maintenance services so they can see problems before they show up. So let me just give you a couple instances of what I see quite often. I will see coolant leaks very early on before you experience an overheat, or sometimes before you really notice a large puddle of coolant underneath your vehicle, to where you don't have that breakdown and potential collateral damage from an overheat. If you guys are still with me in 11 minutes, if I cannot impress anything on you during any other time, late model engines will not tolerate being overheated. Let me say that one more time. And if it's, maybe you know this, but maybe your spouse or your kids, think, oh, I'm almost home or I'm almost to work. Now, I don't mean stop in the middle of the interstate. When you notice and pay attention to the gauge or the idiot lights or the warning lights on the dash, when you notice it's starting to creep up, immediately get to a safe area, pull over, shut the vehicle off. If you don't, and you're driving a vehicle that's made in the last 20 to 25 years, you overheat that engine, I don't care if it's got 2 miles on it or 200,000 miles on it, I can almost, with probably about a 90% guarantee rate, that you are going to warp or blow the head gasket on that vehicle, and you went from a reasonable hundreds of to maybe $1,000 repair to $5,000, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 repair, to where that vehicle is now damaged because of the overheat, that it needs an engine or significant internal engine work. We're seeing them here a lot at the shops at A1 Custom, where they've either had the do-it-yourselfer work on it, which if you're good, fine. If you're not, you're held to the same standard as I am. If I put parts on your car, it better fix your car, right? So we see them come in with a bunch of parts with consuming coolant internally in the engine. So it may have needed those parts, but would you have rather known up front that you needed an engine or head gasket or internal repair? That's a case-by-case basis, by the way. That's not a, oh, let's just try a head gasket. No. That's a video. That's a topic for a whole nother video. But ID problems like that, faint or slight coolant leak, oil leaks, tires with cords showing in them. A lot of these cars, the fenders pretty well cover probably about 70% of the tire, and the width on the tire is getting wider and wider and wider. And so a lot of times you cannot see the inside tread. Now, if you got a pickup out there, you can see a lot of the tires. So you'll see, oh, I got, inside tread wear. These SUVs and cars, you really can't see that. Not to mention, I get a good look at the brakes, steering, suspension, and I have the years of experience in the training. And when I say I mean I as in A1 Custom Car Care. We have, I can't even count how many I could count, but I'm not going to right now, master certified technicians that are training young people to come up and replace them through the industry. Because back to what I talked about earlier, a lot of the absolute pillars of the automotive industry are getting at retirement age. I'm going to turn 41 here in just a few days. There's not a lot of guys or gals my age in this field. And I would argue there's not a lot of them in any of the trades. And so the pool that has been, fairly well stocked, if you will, is shrinking drastically every day or every year because, and I don't blame them, I'm going to want to hang up my wrenches at some point. They're deciding, hey, I have put in my time. I want to enjoy what's left of my life, if you will. Or maybe I want to step out and get into a different industry, Maybe I want to get into running heavy equipment. Maybe I want to get into pest control, landscaping. Maybe I want to start my own business manufacturing something with 3D printers. There's so many options out there anymore that the group of people that you're going to have ability to have good quality service, you better be getting a good relationship with them. Or if you take care of your own vehicle, that's fine. You had better continue your education as well and building your arsenal of tools and equipment. And we're about halfway through the show today, so I appreciate you sticking around with us and weighing in and letting me know what you think and how you feel about this topic. This isn't a one-way deal. This is hopefully a conversation, if you will. And there's a lot of you that are amazing in the comment section, and I appreciate that more than I can ever express. But the tools and equipment, if I've heard it once, I've heard it a million times, where somebody will come in and say, hey, I could do my own work if I only had the tools. Well, I'm not saying that that's a downplay, and maybe that's true. But you guys, I've showed you my home shop. You see it here on the channel. It's extremely well equipped. You've been, a lot of you, to our stores and see that they're extremely well equipped. And I've taken some heat over the years with different people I've worked for or different people in the industry. It's like, oh, why do you spend all that money on tools and equipment? You've been doing it 20 years. Why are you still spending $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year every single year? And I'm not exaggerating that at all, on tools and equipment. It's because that's what the industry demands because of the technology and the shift of these vehicles, that I need to hold a high level. I need the skills and I need the tools to come together to make sure that we can do repairs that a lot of other shops or some of the do-it-yourself people cannot do. The industry is the one driving that bus. When I was growing up as a kid, my dad was an auto body guy, and he worked at a lot of dealerships, did some independents, but I would say predominantly he was at dealers. And so I would go to work with him if I wasn't at school a lot of times. The auto body industry then didn't really take a ton of tools, but typically there was like one of them that I remember most was Sowers Pontiac Cadillac, and I think they were in LaPorte, Indiana. Back then they kind of had a wing, if you will, that was the auto body, but you had to kind of walk through, and it was conjoined very closely with the mechanical side of things. Now, I didn't really get the flair. I do a little auto body work for myself only. Don't come to the shop thinking that we're going to do your body work. We are mechanical repair. That's what we do, diagnostics, etc. But I got to hang out, and he knew most or all of the mechanics as well back then. And back then, if you had a box, that was 5-6 feet tall, 36 inches wide, you were probably the man at that dealership. Doesn't mean that it couldn't have been a lady. I just never saw any. I have since then seen a lot of women get in the field, and a lot of times their critical thinking is a little sharper than what I would consider most men. Not all of them, but they have a different approach to the automotive industry, which I think is great. I think it's absolutely awesome, and I think we need more of it. But now, I'm sure you've seen my toolboxes. You've seen some of the toolboxes in the shop. I'm going to start doing some shop content as well. We're kind of working up. I'm learning a lot of the camera functions with YouTube. I never really had anybody teach anything. I've just kind of jumped in with both feet, trying to figure a lot of this out. This is my DJI Osmo 3. We're on an Insta360 Go. So you guys have seen my toolbox at home. It's a Mr. Big. It's probably a $70,000 toolbox with no tools in it. And I still run into, it does have tools in it, no cost of tools. I probably at this point in time, not lifts and other equipment, but I have probably at least $500,000 worth of tools and equipment that it takes to fix cars every day at the level that I or A1 Custom Car Care does. And that's not slowing down. For the subscriptions of service information company-wide, we're probably well over $7,000 a month just for service information, programming software, diagnostic information, repair information. Every month before we flick and turn the lights on, we're forking that out to make sure we have what's needed, that when we come to you and say, hey, this is what's going on with your car, we're correct. And that's a lot different than, the do-it-yourselfer out there. And I'm not saying you can't. I'm just weighing in that the industry is shifting drastically to where they are forcing really you as an owner out of being able to do your own service. And it's making it really hard for me, to be honest, to keep up. And, if I wasn't as committed to this industry, or A1 Custom Car Care as a company wasn't as committed to this industry, we wouldn't be doing the things we're doing, which is fixing late model vehicles. And we're having a lot of people that have been going to a shop maybe their whole lives, and either that shop is retiring, that shop is closing down, or that shop still does work, but they're not able to fix the late model, the late model vehicles and problems. And so it's not that they maybe don't like that shop, but they're just not able to provide the service that the customer needs. And I get it. It is extremely difficult. But I love this industry. And thankfully, I have been with a company for 22 to 23 years that is as devoted to it as I am and loves it as much as I do. An employee employs a fleet of people that love it and are as good, if not better, than I am. It's really cool to be a part of something like that. I was watching some podcasts here on, other mechanics and whatnot and experiences they've had, and I'm really thankful to not have had some of those experiences throughout my career. I did quit and leave A1 Custom at one time. Thankfully, I left under good terms because I had made a very poor decision, and I went to work for a gentleman or a company that was absolutely terrible. I made it there about 6 months. The work was great. I loved the work. It was doing mobile diesel repair. Absolutely loved it. Even in the crappiest weather, I was able to get it done. But I couldn't continue to work for the devil. And so thankfully I came back, and that's been probably 18 to 20 years ago now. But I've watched the industry change to where some cars don't have an oil dipstick. You check things either with a plug or a scan tool. Transmission dipsticks are going away. You're checking those with a plug or a proprietary dipstick that, depending on the temperature you read with the scan tool, you're monitoring it how many millimeters off the base of the pan. And that's a tool essentially that we keep. It's not in your car. We have to have that equipment, which we do. You look at some of just look under the hood. How many of you have actually opened your hood in the last 6 months, 30 days? If you have, I bet you're in the 1 to 2%. How many of you have checked your fluids over the last time? When I was a kid, you'd pull up to the gas station, you'd wash all the windows, you'd pop the hood, you'd give a good visual inspection, you'd check the oil, maybe if it's running, you'd check the transmission, make sure it had coolant in it, make sure the brake fluid was good, power steering fluid, just give it a once over, because if you didn't, she'd leave you stuck somewhere. Think about the last time you were at the gas station that you saw anybody with the hood open on their vehicle pumping gas or diesel. If you did, it may have been me. And I don't say I feel like kind of a goofy one out there, but I'm definitely the oddball out with the hood open. Typically they have a trash can, and then usually if you're at a good gas station, and I try and stick with certain gas stations that I like the quality of their fuel, I like how their fuel stations are set up, because a lot of times I'm towing a trailer and I need to get in and out of there, and it's a lot more difficult when you're towing equipment or a trailer that I can get in there. But I like fuel stations that have good squeegees and paper towels at their pumps, That way I can check the fluids, wipe the dipsticks, throw it away right there. I'm not tracking that back in the truck, etc. But I'm usually the only one there doing it. And I'll share a quick story with you. I was in uniform, but it was last year, and I had a sweatshirt over the top of my uniform, so you couldn't necessarily see that I was an auto mechanic. But I had it was a 1-ton diesel, it was a flatbed, and I'm filling it up with fuel, and I see some folks over there, they were in a Chevy Cruze, and they were trying to put some air in their tires. And I don't know about you, but any of those gas station air pumps, usually they let more air out than they actually put in, and some of them I've seen up to $2 and $3 now. Crazy. And they're crap, they don't work. So almost all of my vehicles, or I try to make sure, and I have a lot of vehicles, so sometimes I move different equipment to different vehicles depending on what I'm doing, but most all of them have a designated air compressor in the vehicle that I can either run off of a battery or run off of 12 volts off the vehicle. And so as a young guy, he comes over and says, "Hey, do you happen to have a way you could air up one of my tires?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, I do." And so I pulled it out, I got it on Amazon. It hooks to the battery on the car, and it does a very good job airing the tires up. And so I got it out, I aired his tires up. He tried to pay me. I'm like, "No, I'm just helping a guy out. That's all I'm doing." But it kind of gave me that idea that folks are looking for people that can take care of their issues, because there's not a lot of them out there that can do that. And he did need air in the tire. And if you don't know it and you're here 26, 27 minutes into the video, if you run a tire low, I don't care if it's a brand new tire or a 10-year-old tire, when it smushes the sidewall out, it puts a lot of heat and wear, and it will absolutely ruin a very expensive tire very quickly. So, excuse me, do not run your tires low. I'm an absolute stickler on that, whether it's my trailer or trucks, etc. Just about before I go almost anywhere, I'm going to do a little pre-trip and make sure that that vehicle's ready to rock before I head away from the home. That way either I shift into a different vehicle that is ready to go, or I fix the issue that I've got going on right there, right now. As well as every time I stop for fuel, I'm doing basically kind of a pre-trip while I'm letting the fuel fill the truck. I don't want to just stand there or sit in the truck like a bum. I want to make sure I'm being proactive with that time. And so that kind of comes back to the do-it-yourself kind of thing. Either find a good shop that can do it on your behalf and participate with that shop with good communication back and forth, or you're going to have to learn and invest in yourself and your tools and equipment to make sure you can take care of things when, or hopefully before, things get you sideways and get you on the side of the road or not from point A to point B. So hopefully this pushed your thought process a little bit. The industry's changing. The folks that are doing the automotive repair is changing. And so if you're a part of that and you're another mechanic or shop out there, thank you for what you do. If you have a good shop out there that you really can be a partner with, it shouldn't be one-sided where it's just, oh, the shop wins because they take your money. In reality, and this isn't me saying, oh, boo-hoo, we don't make enough money. It's not that. The majority of the money you give to that shop goes to the vendor or the staff or the lighting or whatever. That shop takes a lot of money, but we're kind of almost, in and out. If we buy an engine and you spend $10,000 putting a reman engine in with us, the majority of that money went to whoever that engine builder was that I got the engine from, or transmission, fill in the blank. So be a good partner with them. It should be a win-win. Yeah, I got to keep the lights on. And any of you out there that have been watching, we finally did put a regular old switch in here, so the lights shouldn't go off during our podcast anymore. Thank you, Jason, if you're out there for doing that for me. But be a partner. It should be a win-win. It needs to be a win for the shop, because if it's not, next time you need them, they won't be there. And it should be a win for you, because we got your car taken care of in a timely manner and got you many more trouble-free miles out of that car. But thanks for sticking around with me. I look forward to all the comments, and I'll try and answer them to the best I can.